First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Allan Bowditch. I'm the Chief Communications Officer at Engage Estero. There will be some changes in relation to the organization, which Jim Gilmartin, our president, will be talking about a little bit later. But obviously, this particular meeting today is one of great importance, I know, to everybody in Estero. The meeting that we had last month was related to traffic safety, in which we had Don Scott, Matthew Mayer, and Carmen Monroy, who were the speakers at that time, and provided a lot of information about issues relating to safety here. And for those of you who would like to catch up on that meeting, the details of that are in fact on our website, which is www.esterotoday.com. So you can catch up on the results of that particular meeting on the site there. But today's meeting, of course, is more focused on the 2024 traffic survey, traffic study that's been organized by the Village of Estero's management, and the organization that was responsible for doing that was Johnson Engineering. And we have with us today, as you can see here, and I'll just put the lights down so that maybe you can see things a little better. We have Steve Sarkozy, who will introduce this particular presentation, who is the Estero Village Manager, David Willems, the Estero Director of Public Works, and Leah Holmes, who has been involved, of course, in this project from the beginning at Johnson Engineering. So without further ado, since there's a lot to cover, I would very much like to hand over to Steve just to set the ball rolling.
Absolutely. Here you go.
Thank you, Alan. Good morning, everyone.
Morning. Thanks, Steve.
As you may all know, the Village of Estero performs master plans of each of the functional areas where we have operational responsibility. And the master plans help us guide where we put money to try to improve the overall situation for the village. The transportation and traffic issues are one of those big studies that we do. We do about 6 or 7 of them, and we update them every 5 to 7 years. Of course, in the case of traffic, there's only a limit to what we can do here locally. A lot of the issues that we're facing as a community are regional issues. This traffic, of course, is not just local. So what we're doing now is at the last Wednesday Village Council meeting, the Village Council heard the initial presentation there. We're still in draft form with the final study, but the idea is that ideas that come out of this study drop into our capital improvement program, which we're developing as we speak, and it'll be finalized in early July. So we're deeply appreciative that you come out on this important subject. We're looking forward to comments that we might have. I'll be in this mic off, but David Willems is in the back. He's our village engineer and director of public works. And of course, I'll be here too for the questions, answer questions, and just hear what their comments are. But without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Leah Holmes, who's the project manager for Johnson Engineering on behalf of the village.
Thank you. So as mentioned, I'm Leah Holmes, Johnson Engineering. We've been working on this area-wide traffic study update for a little over a year now. So before we kind of get into the findings and where we're at, I kind of want to go through a quick background so we can explain kind of how we got to where we are today. So there was an initial report done by Kevin Moore back in 2017. That was done to look at the 10-year horizon then for 2027 traffic condition. Since 2020, traffic patterns have changed. There's been a lot of increased growth. So we're here today to look at what is the traffic in 2024, where are we going, and what are the future travel demands in 2034. So the goals and objectives of this update was to collect that peak season traffic data through 2024 look at the key roadways and intersections on how they're operating currently, and then how they're going to potentially operate in 2034. We also pulled crash data for a lot of the key intersections over the past 5 years to look at these sort of patterns and safety issues. And I compiled all that data to develop that area-wide traffic study update. So a quick timeline, like I mentioned, we've been working on this for a little over a year, kicked off the project at the beginning of 2024. That allowed us to collect that peak season traffic, which you generally see February, March timeframe. Since then, we've been processing the data, analyzing the roadways. We modeled the entire village of Estero network to look at the intersections, compiled all the crash data, processed all those, looked for those patterns like I mentioned, and that led us into that draft report and the preliminary findings. So that's where here we are today to discuss those preliminary findings. We want to get some additional input, answer questions, and help facilitate that final report here a little later this year. So like I mentioned, we collected that peak season traffic data. We can see there are blue squares at a lot of the intersections. So those are your main commuter routes. So Telemedia Trail and Corkscrew Road, for example, that's predominantly a lot of your AM and PM rush hour traffic, a lot of people heading to work. So we counted those turning movements at each intersection, how many cars are making lefts, rights, which direction for the AM and PM. Then you can see there's also some green squares. So those are more your integral village roadways, where what we've noticed is there's actually peaking characteristics also in your noontime and lunch rush hour. So we wanted to capture that data as well to really see what's going on during the 12 o'clock hour. Then additionally, you can see there's some like purple boxes with some lines. Those were traffic tubes. You'll see those across the roadway from time to time. Those are continuously counting traffic second by second as vehicles go over. And we had those placed for weeks at a time. So why is all this data important? Like we mentioned, it's a regional full traffic concern. So Estero, as you know, it's centered right in the middle of Southwest Florida. J. and Leah had a lot of commuters heading south in the morning, heading down into Florida County for work. And then again in the afternoon, you got a lot of that traffic heading back up north in the Estero. So I wanted to throw this graph on here because it was pretty interesting. You'll see an overall volume on the roadways. It seems pretty steady throughout the day. But when you look at it by direction, it's actually peaking at different times. This was Corkscrew Road for an example. So you can see the blue is your westbound. You can see in the morning there's a lot of traffic heading westbound. But then it switches throughout the day, and you'll see more of the traffic is heading then into the eastbound direction. So while overall your volumes are relatively the same, it's your directions that are really facilitating the flows and the traffic consumes. So we took all that 2024 data and we wanted to forecast it to 2034. So how did we get to those 2034 conditions? We took into the future development growths. Where are they located? How large are they? What impacts are they going to have to those roadways? We utilize that data as well as there's continual monitoring every year that the village completes. So there's those growth rates that are being looked at every year. So utilizing those average growth rates that have been occurring as well as the future development growths, we determined by roadway segments where those future growths could take us through 2034. So you can see they go anywhere from on the lower end at 1% up through a higher growth rate at 3%. So looking at the roadways and intersection level of service, we looked at it for the 2024 conditions to assess our starting point, where we're at, and then utilizing those growth rates that I just mentioned to see what are they going to look like in 2034. So when I talk about roadway level of service, what does that mean? I'm sure a lot of you have heard of level service A or level service C, but this is a really good graphic that I thought would be really nice to show that really kind of displays what that means. So level service of A, you're seeing those free flow conditions on a roadway. They're slowly getting worse all the way to a level service of F, where you're seeing congestion, cars you're sitting in stop-go traffic. There's more there than the roadway can handle. So looking at the roadway level of service, this is for the Village of Estero roadways. You can see the 2024 conditions, which is this column right here, generally from a level service of B to a C. Applying those growth rates to 2034, Willems Road did have a decent amount of growth there, and that's from via Coconut Point to the Three Oaks segment. And we did compare this to the previous study that was done, and they had observed lower volumes back in 2017. So it really shows there has been a lot of additional growth in this area. Then we also looked at the Lee County, as well as the state facilities along the Tamiami Trail. You see 2024, Three Oaks Parkway and Tamiami Trail are currently exceeding what that level of service is. And I'm sure all of you sit there in traffic, so you know what I'm talking about, especially when I show that graphic of that level of service F. And then looking at the future for 2034, what that does to Ben Hill, Griffin Parkway, as well as the Corkscrew Road segments. And I'm going to kind of get into what all this means here when we get into the findings. A little bit more. I just want to kind of give you the overview of these first. As I mentioned, we also looked at the intersections. So it's the same thing, the intersections are rated anywhere from long service A through F. It's a little bit different than looking at a roadway. Instead of in terms of overall volumes, it is your delay per vehicle. How long are you sitting at that traffic signal? How many times are you sitting through those lights? So you can see level service of A, you're not sitting there too long, less than 10 seconds. Again, it progressively gets worse all the way through level service of F, where it can be sitting there for longer than 80 seconds. So we took a look at the key intersections, and we looked at the intersection level service as a whole. We also wanted to look at what the average delay over that intersection was. But we wanted to also look at it into a little bit more detail on what are each approach doing? What is the worst approach? Is it the northbound? Is it the eastbound? And what kind of delays are they seeing? So these are the signalized intersections. There's 15 of them that we took a look at. So in 2024, you can see the signalized intersections that are currently, as a whole, operating along service F. A lot of these are Tamiami Trail, like Corkscrew Road, a lot of your bigger intersections. Moving into 2034, you can see there's some increased delays. Ben Hill and Estero and Three Oaks Parkway and Willems start approaching that level of service by F. And again, I'll get into these intersections in a little bit more detail and what that means. But we also looked at the unsignalized intersections, 15 of them throughout the village. Current 2024 conditions, Tamiami Trail and Pelican Valley Drive. That was the only one that exceeded the level service, as you can see up here. And then approaching 2034, Tamiami Trail at Pelican Colony then approaches level service of F. So we also took a look at the crash data. We looked at the 5-year history. I only put the top 7 of them up here. We did look at a lot of the intersections, pretty much all of them. But these were the top 7 that we saw with increased crashes and crash rates. Shouldn't be too much of a surprise. Corkscrew Road and Three Oaks Parkway, that was the highest occurrence at 179 traffic accidents over the past 5 years. I do want to point out, though, Tamiami Trail and Willems Road, that one had 118 accidents over the 5 years. But the reason I wanted to bring this one up is we did notice a pattern. There was 3 fatalities over the 5 years, and 2 of those were due to the same issue, and that's the left turn off of Tamiami Trail onto Willems Road. And I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail and get into the intersection findings. The report also takes a look at the environmental impacts. There's a lot of bicycle users throughout the area, on the roadway, in the bike lanes, our pathways. We have a lot of pedestrians, especially I know on Coconut Road. This was actually on Broadway, I believe it was, where there's no sidewalks utilized, and you're still wanting to go out, exercise in the mornings, especially this time of year. It's great weather. All right, so now that you know what everyone wants to know. What are the preliminary findings? What did this tell us? So I want to start with the roadways first. So I'm not going to touch on all of them because there was a lot of segments, like I said, 30 intersections. So I really want to touch on those key ones that we found. So Tamiami Trail, I think you guys saw all those red Fs on Tamiami Trail. This is a state-maintained constrained roadway. So there's limited room for capacity improvements along the corridor. It's utilizing the roadway to the maximum it can, maybe some turn lane improvements here and there to help facilitate those flows. So what the state has identified and what we have noticed is the biggest concern to alleviate traffic and facilitate those flows is to monitor the signal timings, monitoring the phasing as well to help get those flows through the intersections. When we talk about those flows, there's technology within signals that can be incorporated to help enhance that. Currently, Lee County, they are able to, that's something that's important to note. So Lee County maintains all the traffic signals in the area, but they are able to monitor it, go in, adjust timings as necessary. There's also additional improvements that are out there. Technology is ever enhancing. So there's adaptive flows where your signal is currently watching the flows that are coming in. Then it can tell the nearby signal, hey, you got this amount of cars coming through, and that signal downstream can accommodate it, and so on and so forth. Then also the connected vehicle technology, that's up and coming as well. The vehicles, they're getting equipped with a lot of this information. They can talk to each other. The signals can talk to the vehicles. A lot of like ambulances, things like that, they have their own items that they're able to help make sure those lights are green when they get through. So same sort of thing with cars, they'll be able to see where those demands are. Looking at Willems Road. So Willems Road, like I mentioned, we saw a lot of increased traffic versus what was done in the previous study in 2017. So Willems Road, there's some potential turn lane additions at Three Oaks Parkway to help with the movements there, get the increased surge frequently left on the Three Oaks. Aside from the potential 2-lane to 4-lane widening, the scheduled roundabout at River Ranch Road can help facilitate flows through that intersection because there's a lot of cars that'll sit there in that turn lane wanting to turn off onto River Ranch. So these three I wanted to put together. These are all the Lee County roadways. So Corkscrew Road, the segment from Telemedia Trail to I-75, that is identified on the Lee County cost feasible for the future 6-laning. So it is identified on there. And then Corkscrew Road, additionally, east of Ben Hill, I'm sure many of you are aware the 4-laning was just recently completed. That design is set up for the ultimate 6-lane in the near future as well. And Three Oaks Parkway, like I mentioned, that's also a county roadway. So it's going to require Lee County involvement to see what we can do to help increase capacity, meet the current and future travel demands along there. And that goes as well as for Corkscrew Road. Looking at the intersections now, so Telemedia Trail and Estero Parkway, a couple of things that we noticed there. So Estero Parkway, the turn lanes that are coming into Telemedia Trail, they're currently insufficient length. Cars are stacking up into the roadway and they're blocking the cars will back up and they'll block that left turn into the Walmart. Then vehicles try to make the left turn, trying to cut through traffic, causing traffic accidents before they can't get through. Then that's backing up in the other direction. So one of the items that we saw to really help increase that area was to close that left turn into Walmart. Doing so, you'd be able to lengthen those dual left turn lanes onto Telemedia Trail. Telemedia Trail in Willems Road. So this intersection, the westbound had pretty decent queues and delays. So adding an exclusive westbound right turn lane helps get those cars that are making a right are able to do so. So they're not stuck at the light, sitting there waiting for whoever's in front of them to continue through the intersection. And like I mentioned, this is the intersection that had that high crash risk with fatalities. That's due to currently you can make that turn on the green through and cut across traffic. So we put a potential protected northbound and northbound and southbound left turn is to really make that a safe facility as well. These next two I want to kind of talk about together. So Telemedia Trail and Pelican Colony. This does approach well service of ads in the future 2034 conditions. They do recommend the installation of a traffic signal. You've got residential on both sides of the roadway. And the reason why I want to talk about this with the next one is Telemedia Trail on Coconut Road. So if you can't get out on Pelican Colony, what we found is a lot of vehicles will head north to Coconut, and they'll utilize the Coconut Road intersection to make a left onto Telemedia Trail. So having that signal down at Pelican Colony could help alleviate some of those concerns at this traffic signal as well. But we also saw westbound, there was some delays in the left turn there, and there's room to extend the left turn lane a bit if all. Of course, we live via Coconut Point, coming southbound on via Coconut Point. Currently, there's just the left turn and a share through right. So we're recommending some southbound turn lane improvements that could help increase capacity for that southbound movement. Again, having that dedicated right turn lane helps those vehicles be able to continuously make that flow when it's safe to do so and not being impeded by that through traffic waiting on that red light. Telemedia Trail on Pelican Stone Drive. This one was currently on low service path. There's a couple options that we were thinking at this intersection. It could be modified as a right in, right out, and that helps really address the safety. So everyone's not trying to cut across this length of traffic to make a left onto Telemedia Trail. The issue of this, and what I think a lot happens currently to this day, you can't make a left because it's unprotected. So you make a right, go around the next signal, and then you turn to head north. That obviously has increased impacts north and south of your intersection, increasing the delays at those. So it opens up to the potential future signalization, especially with the development potentially to the east of the intersection. Telemedia Trail and via Rapala Drive. There's a lot of commercial on the west side. I believe it's the first gas station, St. Clap, St. Galloway, a bunch of commercial areas, and then the residential areas then to the west. Lots of traffic moving through this intersection, both in and out, so did recommend completing a signal warrant analysis as well. So what are our next steps? So public input, that's where we're here today. We wanted to talk to you guys, get your comments, your questions, your concerns. Additional stakeholder involvement, Lee County, getting with them and talking with them about the signals, what they have up and coming in their plans, and how they can help facilitate, especially from a regional perspective. And then from there, putting together the final recommendations, putting that final report together, and to see where we're at, where we can be. But with that, I thank you, and we'll certainly open it up to your guys' comments.
I just wonder how much analysis you did of future developments. Like when Kingston comes in, which is a Lee County, line, and you're going to connect Corkscrew with 82. So some vehicles are going to go that way, even though we're going to go 1,000 homes. Same way when Alico gets connected to 82. Was that in part of year 2034? Because that should all happen by 2034.
So real quick, the future development, that slide that I had that showed the pockets, those were for the larger ones that are up and coming within the village itself. We looked at the ones that are going to be generating 200 or more peak hour trips, because that's a significant impact on the roadway. It really increases those growths. Your general growth rates already accommodate what should be going on regionally through the area. And I will say that Lee County does have, like I mentioned, Alico Road, things like that, more regional traffic that they're currently studying as well that can both facilitate traffic that's flowing right out through the village, kind of around and on the other sides.
And so, right, yeah. Let me take this lady here first.
Hi, I live in Ashtabula, and my main concerns are Corkscrew and Three Oaks, because 9 times out of 10, that's where I'm headed. First of all, right turn lanes need to be extended, like one turning right onto Three Oaks, or a second right turn lane added, such as coming north on Three Oaks and turning onto Corkscrew. Okay. To me, that's a smaller thing to do, is to extend the right turn lanes. first of all, Estero needs to slow down on development because we've got Wawa and we're gonna have a Starbucks back to back. The other thing is,
Something is said, what?
unless I train of thought.
That's okay, we'll come back to you.
No, those are really good comments, and we're definitely, all your comments, we are marking them down so you can make sure to take a look at it and incorporate it. And yes, right turn lanes, they're a great thing. Like I said, we didn't touch on all the intersections here, but we did notice that at Stillworld. So yes, thank you.
I knew those because
We get to everybody, I promise.
If I understood you correctly, you said that a traffic light system is currently operating on a timing basis and based on traffic flow and so on and so forth?
yeah, all in section.
I mean, I would be loud. I would be loud. So currently, it depends on the intersection. Not all signals are the same. It depends on the area. A lot of them, especially along Tamiami Trail, they're all coordinated to each other. They currently have their set patterns throughout the day. Throughout the day, those patterns do change. The county does have where they can sit there. There's cameras. They can watch the intersections. They can adjust timings as needed. But sometimes by the time you adjust the timing, it could be too late by the time you're seeing what's going on. So that's why I said there's a lot of up and coming technology that's out there.
If that's the case, then we have people running this that are about DEI, because I don't see a single thing changing in the traffic patterns, and the same traffic builds up, all right? The lights do not seem to be timed. Somebody needs to go and check it out physically and see, because anything else is BS. I've been saying this for ages now. The second thing is, everybody's worried about global warming, all right? And yet we're sitting at intersections, all right, waiting to make left turns, sometimes 4 minutes. And why can't we have, if it's an easy intersection, why can't we have a blinking yellow light to say, make a left with caution? I sit there sometimes and I'm waiting, there's not a car in sight. But if I make that turn, I'm going to get a ticket. Right? And meanwhile, I sit there for 3-4 minutes sometimes. Right? The other thing is, if you have a more traffic intersection or a more critical intersection, maybe make the traffic light blinking red. I think we need to take some common sense approaches to some of this. And we also need to, I think, do a public service thing on TV or something to wake our drivers up, because we have the worst drivers. You want good, and people take their driving seriously. We don't. Just coming here this morning, we had a backup on Estero Parkway. The 2 left lanes were all the way backed up into the main lanes, at least, another 10 cars, all right? So this lady in a Bronco is in the left, and she's driving, and the light changes. Rolling, all right? And she has no idea. People have to have some concern for the people that are waiting on line behind them. And I think if you did a public service announcement, maybe you'd wake some people up and explain these things to them.
We've got a lot of questions.
Yeah, Joe.
So I think you might have been referring to the smart traffic signal recommendation. That is not being done right now. That would require additional infrastructure. That was presented as a maybe future way to make US 49 function better. And then the comment about the permissive left
Websites and then the article.
recommendation is that should go away from that, because at Willems and 41, that's why we had the because that's allowed, and people make that left when there's people traveling too fast. There's a safety concern. Having the blinking yellow or
Yes.
Yes. We'll go like that.
Louis Tancredi from the Bellaterra community. I want to commend you on an excellent presentation, especially the amount of data that you provided there as an engineer. I appreciate that. So my question has nothing to do with this type of solution for dealing with traffic and intersections. We understand, those of us that have looked at it, it's an archaic system that's very prone to problems, fatalities. As a matter of fact, in Florida, of all the fatalities that happen on the roadways, 47% occur at these types of intersections, especially the left turns. Personally, my wife was involved in a total car destruction at Ben Hill and by Publix. 2 officers that came to oversee the scene afterwards, both of them had been involved in left-hand turns prior. So my point is, this is a bad, bad system. We can't get away from it. It's a bit costly. My question is, why aren't we spending more time looking at a solution that Europe has applied, which is roundabout, and I'm glad to see that at the end of corkscrew by 28, that's been applied. If anybody hasn't seen that yet, it's a thing of beauty. Why aren't we talking more about more modern solutions to a problem that we can't fix, no matter what we do, no matter how much we educate drivers, no matter how much improvement in timing signals we put in? It's a flawed system. Thank you.
Yes, across the time.
And I will say on the roundabouts, there's certain scenarios where, yes, they're amazing. They work really great. There's a few situations where it really needs to utilize traffic signals, or even FDOT, they're looking at alternate measures as well. But when you have a 6-lane roadway, for instance, or you have right-of-way constraints, you got businesses or homes on each corner, that's where the roundabouts really where you start having some concerns in them.
I know. It was right.
Hey, good morning. My friends and I are here from Pelican Landing.
Please.
And I don't know why someone laughed. But anyway, so we're obviously concerned by the fact that on Coconut Road, going down to the Hyatt, we're going to have the Ritz-Carlton is going to be building this humongous, building 2 huge units. They're going to be very expensive, own boat slips and all this stuff. And then on the corner of Coconut Road and US 41, thank you. We're building that big depot.
It's a Woodfield development.
Correct, thank you. So how on earth are we going to be able to get out of our neighborhoods onto Coconut Road in the future? Because right now, if you take Pelican and if you bring that slide back at Pelican Colony Boulevard, if you go straight to 41, there's no way in hell that you want to take a left turn right there. So you normally have to take a right and go down and do a U-turn. And I've seen, I don't know, a study on how many accidents you've had at that intersection, but it is so dangerous. So most of us come out of, if we come out of our development, and we come up Pelican Colony Boulevard, take a left, and then go past the Elks Lodge there on the corner, then take a right on the Coconut Road to get out, to wherever we're going. My main concern is what is going to happen when these developments are, I don't know when these are going to be completely low or whatever in the next year or so. Mm-hmm. But Coconut Road is going to be, is there any new future other directions you can take that traffic other than on Coconut Road? Is there a way around to come back on Broadway, perhaps, by the church? Is there a church there? I mean, is there any other way of moving that traffic around instead of being all on Coconut Road?
Thank you.
So regarding Pelican Colony Boulevard, there is a traffic signal that was there. It's in design, it's in permitting, it's taken a lot longer than it should have. But the adjacent developers are working on that permit right now. Hopefully in the next couple months, they're able to get the permit and then start construction. And the property owners on both sides have agreed to pay for it. So it's a matter of getting the permits and then building it. So ultimately, you would be able to make a left turn at Pelican Colony Boulevard. And what Leah mentioned is that eventually that Pelican Colony Boulevard is going to change what Coconut Road looks like on both sides, because people are going to be able to make that left turn both east and westbound. And she didn't really mention it specifically, but I think in the report, there's recommendations to relook at that after that traffic signal is installed to really see what the traffic flow is going to be there. If you look, we've done several studies on Coconut Road, even before we did the master plan here. And what they recommended is that the communities on the north side of the road are at some point going to have difficulty making lefts onto Coconut. And the recommendation in those reports are roundabouts at each of those intersections to get people out on the road. And it would also slow the traffic on the road. So that's ultimately where the solution is. And, good thing is that traffic signal is ongoing. It's already designed. They're just working on a final permit. So hopefully at the, some point this year, they get those permits, they're able to start construction.
You talk about Pelican Boulevard.
Pelican
Boulevard, there's going to be a light that traffic signal 41.
Yes.
Correct. And then be able to take a left.
Correct.
But what about the people that are going to be buying in the Ritz-Carlton as a doka? Is there any other way to get?
Well, there is no other way to get out.
Okay.
There's preserves, and we would just be changing where the problem is. We would change the problem being on Coconut to being on Willems, which already has problems. And I don't think we could ever get up to Broadway because we'd have to cross the river. So that's not realistic, but Willems has problems just like Coconut does, so that would be possible. And the growth rate in the report is intended to take into account the growth out to the west.
Do you know when those developments are going to be completed?
I do not know when those are completed, but just keep in mind, under construction, there's a lot of traffic being generated by those developments now because of the construction traffic. Once it's done, that construction traffic will be replaced by the residents' traffic.
Well, Elon Musk has come out with a car that goes up in the air.
Thank you, David. There's a question at the back here, so I'm gonna take this lady first.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for all your work. And my name is Adele. I live in Osprey Cove, off Estero Parkway. Estero Parkway, that whole section, 41 Estero Parkway, the egresses into Rusty's, that plaza, Walmart, is becoming, it is dangerous. So have you taken a look at that? Because people that are using to go eastbound, they come out the back way of Walmart. Then you got the people coming out of Osprey Cove. And then you also have people that they make a U-turn at that intersection to go when they come out of the Rusty's Plaza to head westbound. So that's causing concerns with that. And also, people that are heading westbound on Estero Parkway, when they come to 41, they're making U-turns to go eastbound on Estero Parkway, and that creates a lot of delays as well. So my question is, have you looked at that area? Because Walmart is expanding a 3,000 square foot pickup delivery, and that's going to seriously increase as well.
And get that.
Thank you. Yeah, no, those are very good concerns. And we did look at Estero Parkway as a whole, and then the actual intersection one. We did look at, it's kind of hard to see now with the lights on, but we did look, there we go, at Tiamami Trail and 307 Light and Bed Hills. We looked at just the major intersections along that corridor. But we did look at Estero as a whole.
I may take all day. And Jim and Wayne know that. Major issues, but getting back to individual issues, River Ranch Road, for instance, now cut through to Corkscrew Road, okay? So there are several communities along River Ranch Road, of which I live in one, Estero Place, but also a high school, and now a daycare facility may be coming because it was approved by our wonderful zoning board. And it is now for sale because they realized that there isn't really room for another day school, but they did it anyway. Anyway, I also suggest 3 or 4 different things. One, no U-turns at major intersections. No U-turns. When people are making left turn, that U-turn takes twice as long as a person making a left-hand turn. No U-turns at major intersections. Works at other places. Secondly, no through traffic on small roads like River Ranch, like Broadway. no through traffic signs. So they don't do cut-throughs to get through 41 or to get through Corkscrew, to get to Corkscrew. We can't even get out of our community at Estero Place on the River Ranch side when it's between 4 and 5:30 in the afternoon. I've tried many times. Thirdly, backups at Lowe's. Who on earth would have approved another traffic light at that area, another community shopping center with 75 just down the road and Corkscrew Road? I think the traffic consultants who are giving the information to our zoning board are incompetent. And I say that, and I know them very well, Ted Treesh and a lot of the traffic consultants. They're always underestimating the traffic, David. And I think that the zoning board has to take that into consideration and look at the feasibility of those reports, like we did in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, when we slowed down and paused development until we could catch up and do the intersections that are needed, the infrastructure that are needed before these developers continue building. Fourthly, Coconut Road has 3 agencies. I was the former community manager of Pelican Landing. I tried to get Estero, Anita, and Lee County together to work on Coconut Road, David and Stephen, to try to get widening or something, because we are now going to pay for that, not the Ritz, not London Bay. We are, and that is dead wrong. Went to Bonita Springs and asked them to please make sure the developer pays for the impact fees, and maybe they have, but not to the extent that it needed. And lastly, do we have any ITS, intelligent traffic systems in this county? If we don't, we should look into it. In Pennsylvania, we have the highest, fastest growing township in Pennsylvania, and we put in ITS. We put signage that was very clear so that people knew what to expect and how to get there, because we have a lot of new people in this area that do not know where they're going, GPS or otherwise. So it's time for 3 things. Slow development, pause it, put the infrastructure in place first, like we used to have when we had concurrency in Florida, until my friends in the legislature took that away. We need it back in Estero. Thank you very much.
Been fighting for 15 years.
I think the closing statement was what's with the development, that the legislature has made it that the village cannot have concurrency. That can't be a requirement of the development.
Can we do a moratorium? Can we do a pause? Can we do a phasing?
That's outside of the scope of anything that we're doing here. We don't have the.
Stephen's here. He can recommend it to the zoning board.
So as far as the traffic signal at Lowe's, that's mostly a safety issue, because we did have fatalities at intersections along that area. So in order to do that, we had to close intersections and put up a traffic signal. So the fatalities haven't happened in that area since the traffic signal has been installed. So that's why that was installed. You know, a lot of the traffic on Corkscrew Road and Three Oaks Parkway is because of the volume of the roadway itself as much as the intersection. So as Leah said, that roadway needs to be widened. If it's 3 lanes instead of 2, it probably that traffic signal functions the way that it should. So ultimately that area doesn't need to get widened, and there are other roads that need to be widened as well.
Good morning. I'm one of those unfortunate people that live on Three Oaks. And I live in Villa Palmeras, which is directly across from the fire station. We do not have a turning lane into our development, and there are no streetlights on the road. Between 4:15 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. approximately, we cannot get in or out of our development. And there is a grate on the roadway for the fire station. There is a sign before our development that says, please do not block this intersection because of the fire station. No one reads it, no one sees it, no one heeds it. Perhaps it needs flashing lights around it. It needs something because that whole intersection is blocked. The reason it's blocked is because they're waiting to turn right onto Corkscrew, and that backs up the whole right lane all the way down to Coconut. So we need something there just to open that gap at least before this. I know it's a state road, but we need something there to open that gap. Fire stations, but from lane also, because we talked with the fire station. So anything we can do to help that, and we appreciate it. And thank you. That's what becomes.
Yep. So, well, I think Steve and the team are making a note of your comments. So,
I hope so. Thank you.
Well-
Yes.
I mean, that's kind of the context of the report is that the Three Oaks Parkway and Corkscrew Road in that area is failed right now. So even if you added the turn lanes, I think the report's indicating they would probably still fail because the through traffic, especially on Corkscrew Road, there's not enough volume. So not only do the turn lanes need to happen, but Three Oaks Parkway and Corkscrew Road need to be widened in that area to handle the amount of traffic that's there
That's
now.
also the fire station, though. We need that open.
Right, so that would be an enforcement issue that we'll work with the sheriff on. But realistically, we need to get to the point where it's not backing up all the way through that area. That's ultimately what we should get to. Thanks.
And how much coordination is there between Clay County and this is the village of Estero, correct? Yes. So, in your study, have you already submitted this and met with and discussed with the Lee County Transportation Department? Yes, no. Wait, this first question. And if not, all this input is wonderful for you, but a lot of this has to do with county and regional. And so I'm hoping that this is a full meeting, so people don't have to go to another meeting. And again, submit their observations and requests that you will be calling forward and coordinating this and then reporting back to the community, because this is much broader than just the village of Estero, what we see when we're driving around. I live in Lighthouse Bay. I am seasonal, but have seen a lot of growth from where I came from over the decades, and this is coming here, and hopefully that I agree with. I won't put this gentleman's name, but everything you said, thank you. Thank you with pause. That in his zoning board, because never hear from that. And
And the county district commissioner should be here.
and I don't know if they are.
They're not.
Okay, so you should have invited us and made sure someone was here from the county, because this is really important at this point before it gets out of hand. I don't know financially if you've talked over with your budget, with the county budget, with the state budget, because all of the projects with your square technology the roads is going to be way beyond what the village of Estero has financially to even handle, maybe contribute to. But that's something that, again, the developers with the impact fee structure they have here at the state of Florida, that should have been planned at the very beginning
In these 10 acres. Is not.
So that was that's good. That's a good question. I think that one of the last slides was intended to describe the sheep out. Is that on now or? Let me see. But yeah. All right. So I think one of the last slides was intended to say what the next steps were.
Yeah.
Really, we need this report in order to go talk to the county.
Right.
We can't just go talk to the county of these philosophical issues or things. This report, the intent of this report is to demonstrate and identify the areas that we need improvement.
That's right.
The next step is first we went to the public, and then the next step is to go to the county and the state and coordinate with what our findings are, how that marries up to what their understanding is, and then trying to advocate for the improvements within the village that the village doesn't control. As mentioned earlier, the traffic signals are all operated by the county. So any of that adaptive traffic signal technology would really need to come from the county or more of an NPO regional basis. But the reason for the report is that the village has a document that goes to advocate for those type of improvements.
Go to the people that I haven't spoken to yet. That I already give you.
Thank you. Quick positioning question. Current population of the village of Estero, what is it?
3,600.
What's our population?
40,000.
40,000. Thank you. So I'm questioning, like first or second slide, in there, it was written down that on Corkscrew Road, the growth rate projected through 2034 was 3%. And reading and Engage Estero, they said that the Kingston development was 10,000 doors. Chinar or Pulte or something, another 5,000 doors, 28,000 population forecasted by 2030. 28,000 over 40,000, that's 50%. So the 3% growth rate since this report, and it seems like this miss on Corkscrew Road, I'm in Wildcat Run, the next fatality will be going west on Corkscrew Road to get to I-75, going the only way because of the sanctuary, all the way to Bonita Beach, the 82 in Alico. You see, 82 in Alico going north, that's fine for the airport, but everyone going to Bonita Springs and heading south to Naples can only get there from Corkscrew. So when Kingston and the lawsuit happened, blah, 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 the impact of this and the projection of 3%, I'm challenging that data and making darn sure that you correct it, because it's like 40%. Therefore, is Corkscrew Road essentially going to be an Estero Parkway in order to accommodate 28,000 population increase on Corkscrew Road by 2030? Do you understand my question?
Yeah.
Yes.
Too late.
Yeah. So I will say a growth rate of 1 to 2% is usually what you typically see. That's usually especially 2%. That's usually considered conservative at your 2% level. We did want to go more aggressive at 3%. Keep in mind this is 3% every year that we're looking at that. So that's why we did apply this higher growth rate. Once you start applying a lot higher growth, you're going to it'll give you some data, and you're going to say, I need a 10-lane highway coming through here. Things of that nature. So usually a 3% growth is pretty aggressive when you look at it from the annual standpoint on a roadway perspective.
And just keep in mind that it's, if it's a 20% population growth, that it doesn't equal the traffic growth. And this is every year for 10 years. So it's 3%, then 3%, then 3%, then 3%. For the whole whatever you're doing the study for. So it's not you can't just compare the 3% to the 25%.
It's 34% calculated.
The 3% is really high. And when you look at, I think when we looked at the traffic numbers for Corkscrew Road, even with all the development that's happened out there and the reset past, I think the Kimley Horn study actually overestimated the increase in traffic over the last 10 years with their 2%. Right. So this is higher than this is estimated. It's a lot higher than anything we've seen out there in the last 5 years.
So 30,000 you're not concerned about?
It's a big number. 3% is a high number for growth. And likely that's not going to be over 10 years. Probably.
No, sooner.
No.
Well, Publix is out there and
Phil Saudi Home is going to take quite a while for some Jim and says.
So let's wait until we get the microphone back, but I can project. So
we'll look at that. We'll look at that a little closer.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think everyone can hear my voice. I'm not exactly shy or quiet.
Okay.
I live in Corkscrew Shores. I moved there in 2018. That was Floyd Hill, Wild Blue, Vista Blue, and River Creek. And there's no way. You added thousands of doors during a very small window there. And there is no way that you can tell me the traffic only went up 3% per year over those years. You doubled if the population that was out at that end of Corkscrew. So to hear that we're going to, and the Geo Holmes one that's around the corner of 5,000 is actually not going in right now. NAR's backed out of that. But that 10,000 doors, and adding out there and whatever else development, I'm sorry, I agree with the gentleman. I think it's 3%. It may be that's considered conservative, but if your base is small and you take 3% and you add to it, your base is still small. If you quadruple the amount of people that are out there, it is drastically higher than a 3% increase. And all you have to do is compare your road studies to 2018 or 2019 on Corkscrew Road to now. I do not believe that it's going to show it was only a couple of % increase in the growth of traffic.
So we'll look at that, but the original report was done in 2017. They assumed a 2% growth rate, and that over-predicted compared to the numbers that we just got out there this past year. I'm just telling you what the numbers are. We'll look at it again. We understand the concern. We'll look at it.
Okay, I did have a question. That was posed to me by Susan Bolger, who hasn't been able to stay for the rest of the meeting. But I think it's an interesting one, and maybe one again that you might need to take a look at. What she says is she lives in Shadowwood. She lives at Cypress Hammock, and she's talking about when she comes out of Shadowwood into Kokening Road, there is a median if she is taking a left to go east. And what she says is, because the exit from Shadowwood on Kokening Road is often busy and therefore dangerous for me to make a left-hand turn, please consider reducing the Coconut Road speed, currently at 45 miles an hour, and possibly adding a warning light, maybe a flashing yellow, at that particular intersection. Of course, that may not be possible, but I think it is an interesting point, and I come out that way too, so that was a question.
I mean, I don't think that this flashing light is a standard thing that you would see in that scenario, but I mean, I live in Estero. I experience a lot of the things we're talking about here, and I'm not shy about taking a right-hand turn and then a U-turn at intersections that I feel and saying, no, you. So yeah, it's a safer movement than going across some of the roads at certain times of day. Yeah. Usually at that intersection, the alternative would be to eliminate the safety issue. We'd eliminate the left out.
That's right. Yes. Good point. Okay, other questions? Oh my goodness. Who hasn't spoken? You haven't spoken yet.
I live at the Cascades and I'm a board member over there. I've been there 14 years. So big problem is trying to exit from the Cascades onto Estero Parkway, especially if you want to make a left turn. I've done it 6 o'clock in the morning to go to Walmart. And you pull out into the median, you have to look way back over your shoulder or have somebody else look for you to see if there's somebody, because of all the shrubbery that's down there, you can't see them coming. Or at times people will be coming from the east, they pull in, they're going to make a left-hand turn into the Cascades. And then I got to look across to see if somebody's coming out of the reserve, coming across that way. And then the traffic coming from the west, you hope they're going 45 miles an hour. Generally, they're going probably 65. So when you pull out, you almost get it before you even get across. So, and then we have Sundays and Saturday night church services. And everybody that comes out, they run all the traffic down and they make a U-turn in front of us. It's nearly impossible when they come out. It's even hard to make a right-hand turn because the people are making a U-turn and you got to watch that way. So I'm surprised we haven't had any more accidents there than we have, or even a fatality by now. So it's a pretty dangerous intersection.
No, thank you. And like I said, we're definitely writing all these down, and I'm seeing a lot of concern, especially about
And I think the last two concerns are the same.
Yeah,
the same issue.
Those left turns out of communities. So thank you.
Yes, Gary. Yeah. Maybe.
Thank you very much. Is there any possibility of having a third north-south faster artery going between Lehigh and up north down to Naples? We've got 41, we've got Three Oaks, Ben Hill, Griffin. Is there a possibility of a long-term 10-year plan to turn that into a 4-lane that would allow taking 20-30% of traffic?
951.
I think people would love to have it if it would be there. That's my only question.
951 is
They're in the mentor. Yeah. Tug there. Go get it.
So they're back 20 years or more, and it kind of maybe is bubbling up a little bit is 951, which will connect Collier to Lee County some way. I mean, the original alignment brought it right through Grandeza, which would not be a good thing. And it really doesn't even fix the issue because most of the traffic's coming from Lehigh, and to bring everybody in to Estero to alleviate that would make sense. But the challenge with that is all of that land between Lee County, Lehigh, and Collier is preserved. That's right. So they would have to cut through thousands of acres of preserves to get that. I think there are people still talking about it, but I don't really know.
Right, yeah, it's a trail like common house.
I can make a further comment about that. In fact, at the February meeting that I was talking about, Don Scott did actually mention Route 5, 951. And in fact, there is on the article that I mentioned that's on the website, he was actually pointing out that if that road were to go ahead again, because it was discussed, as David said, in 2008, I believe, that would be further east than it was planned in the beginning. And there is actually a map which he provided, which illustrated where that might go. The problem, however, which he pointed out, was compared with the cost of putting that road in further back in time, and now an estimated cost would be $1.8 billion. And Lee County does not have the money for that at the moment. So that's all I can tell you about that.
Because it's cutting right through a preserve over wetlands.
Yes, it would, and that also would be an issue. Yes.
You have this version.
So I've been in Cascades with my late husband and now with my current husband since the very beginning. We built in there. We had a meeting about maybe 4 or 5 years ago talking about a roundabout, a traffic site, a light, or leave it. I believe the majority said, leave it. Personally, I believe a roundabout is the way to go.
You're right. Yes.
It shows down.
I think the problem is that people are not too bright about how to use a roundabout. It's not that hard, and you can learn. You know, we are not too old to learn. Hello.
Can I just add? I was just on my Cascades for tour. I just thought if the roundabout would have gone the way. I live on Highway 41 or near Oshkosh, Wisconsin. It's Interstate 41. We have roundabouts on both sides of 41 to cross up, over the overpass. They're the simplest thing in the world. I've seen trucks, trailers, dump trucks.
Hang on. Wait, I'm sure that Steve will correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. In fact, the former mayor, John McClain, when he wasn't the mayor, actually proposed a roundabout. But it's my understanding that the manager of the Cascades at the time was very adamant that a roundabout should not be put there.
That was his opinion.
That's right, but maybe it's time to re-examine that one. Okay, where else? Who hasn't spoken yet?
You all have identified a lot of possible things to be addressed, which is great. You've also mentioned that there are multiple stakeholders in making this happen. My question is, what is the process for now prioritizing which things get addressed and when? Because you can't do everything at once. You may not even have funding for some of the larger projects that need it. But I'm just curious about the process.
There's really two separate processes. One would be what the village can handle on our own, and then the things that we need the state or the county. The report will have recommendations in it, but ultimately it will be so they'll have recommendations in the report. Staff will put that into our capital improvement plan, And then we'll work with council to figure out which ones are the top priority. Sometimes that's, funding what's available, maybe working with it, maybe there's another project that's going on so it's not as it's not as simple as just a big priority. There's other things that go into it. The ones that are on state or county road, that's really the next step here, is to formalize the recommendations a little bit further and then go meet with the county and go meet with the state and figure out how those mesh up with what their recommendations are, because they look at the same roadways we have and have recommendations of what they want to do. Just for example, on the Coskeyville plan, the 6-lane 75 to 41 in Corkscrew, that's already in their plan. They already have in their plan to do dual rights from Three Oaks to Corkscrew Road. It's just a matter of using this to maybe push that forward quicker. And that's really going to be the biggest priority, is which ones are creating the most problems, both from a traffic flow and safety issue. I think council will probably, lean on the safety part, because really that's the most important thing, but we'll look at both of those.
Thank you, David. I'm going to take just one more question, and then what I'd like you to do is, if you have got other questions and you won't be able to get them through because we obviously have a time constraint, then I'd like you to write to me, and I will pass them to Stephen and Leah and also David, so that they can have that information as well. So my email, you can write to me at engageestero, CCO@gmail.com, okay? engageestero@gmail.com. So we'll take one more question. All right.
Yes, all the talk about the roundabouts and the making U-turns and not making U-turns and excess and the cost and so on. We're from New Jersey, where everybody starts laughing. They have a solution called the jug handle. And from an engineering point of view, has anyone given any thought, consideration to jug handles?
I have. Just a good idea.
So that's a really good question. I think I've lived here in Southwest Florida my whole life, and I've seen one jug handle. But I think the biggest thing with that is right away. It takes a lot of land for those, and obviously land value, things of that nature. So no, that's a good point.
Yeah, before they start developing the intersections, they will consider it.
Well, look, as I said, do please write to me with your subsequent questions. We've obviously taken a lot, but I would really like to ask you to give a round of applause to Steve. Yeah, that's really very nice. So just to finish up, I'm going to just hand over to my colleague, Jim Gilmartin, but I would remind you, if you are interested in going, that this evening there is a meeting from the Bonita Estero Trails to Trails organization, which, as you may know, is BERT. They have a meeting this evening at 5:30 with a presentation at 6:15 at the Elks Club. So there you learn what's really happening and what's moving forward with BERT, which I know the village of Estero is very fully behind. That's of course the Rails to Trails plan. So just for you to be aware. So Jim, over to you.
My name is Jim Gilmartin, I'm president of Engage Estero. I want to thank you for being here. This is the second meeting we've had on traffic in the last couple of months, because it's the issue that surfaces more often than anything else. More often than environment, more often than water quality, more often than anything else. This is a biggie, and it's important to us. Last time we had the meeting, I shared with the audience some of our goals and strategies that we're going to be moving ahead with in Engage Estero. So I'd like to just revisit a couple of them now and talk about something that Allan mentioned earlier on. In order for us to exist, Engage Estero, we need funding. Volunteerism is not free. I'll say that again. Volunteerism is not free. All of the executives and leaders in Engage Estero do not get paid any money. But we need to have funding to cover our costs of running the organization like any other organization that exists. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, so anyone who donates to us can write it off as a tax write-off. So please visit esterotoday.com, look for invest, and if you can, throw us a few bucks. The more you can do that, the longer we will be in existence, and the more kinds of programs like this we can provide for you. So that's important to us. The other thing is we want to build an emergency fund of about $750,000. That fund would be used when there was an emergency, like the various hurricanes that came through, specifically Ian, that really caused significant damage here. Engage Estero was the first group that hit the street on Broadway, bringing in FEMA, bringing in food for people that needed food, donating dollars, significant amount of dollars, putting together organizations that built up those dollars, etc. Even before, candidly, the village did. So we can use some of that money to do those kinds of things as well. We also need to transition Engage Estero into a professionally run organization. It's not the case that we are not professionals. All of us that are working in Engage Estero have significant backgrounds in management, organization, over the years in different parts of the country, etc. But in order to really make it stand like a solid organization, you need to have professional people who do this all the time. Without that, volunteerism, it has its way and it can be helpful, but you need professionals to work, and that's another reason why we like to build up a war chest for Engage Estero. What Allan mentioned earlier was that there was a transition taking place. I can just get this page. Okay. Well, there you go. Allan talked about there being a transition taking place, and there is. I'm president now for about another 3 days. Then I'm out of it, okay? But not entirely, because I was convinced to join the board of Engage Estero, and I will be taking the position as chairman of the board of Engage Estero. The board really works on policy, sort of giving direction to the operations people. This is the way we're going to be going. They take their cue from operations, but they make the decisions as to what the policies are going to be and what Engage Estero is going to spend some time on. It's important to note that the fellow that has been running this, Allan, Bowditch, is the new president. He'll be taking on April 1st, and he's a top-notch guy. I've worked with him for the past 6 years.
No, that
April 1st, you think I'm kidding, right? That's what I'm going to say, and I didn't really mean it. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, Allan's going to take it over. Please support him as you move forward. I'll be sticking around to do certain things, but he's going to be the guy that's going to make things happen. So let me just tell you how we're going to be moving ahead. In order for us to be successful, we have to engage with the community to get your insights. This is how it works. These kinds of meetings, surveys that we'll be doing, etc., tell us that we should be doing something on certain areas. For example, traffic now. That's what we're doing right now, and we'll be spending a significant amount of traffic as time goes by, because as you heard this morning, the folks that came here talked to you about recommendations that are going to be made. Well, our job, as we see it, if we're here to inform you and to encourage engagement, to improve the quality of life, then we have to do deep dives into these kinds of issues. Not just do this, but research. Again, that costs dollars to make that happen, and it's important for you to understand that. But we can only do so much. You have to do the rest of it. If in fact you have a heartfelt feeling about traffic, you're really concerned about it, etc., I strongly suggest you form some grassroots teams. People in the community, people who are really interested in it, And those folks would be involved in supporting or advocating for certain issues, whether it be traffic or others, at the village and at Lee County, going to the commissioners' meetings. That's how you're going to get some action. It isn't going to be simply engage Estero or the village per se, and other organizations that are locked into, for example, environment and water quality and so on. They can only do so much. They can get you informed information, factual information, research-based information, where we have no bias, and that's what we do. We don't send out biased information recommended. We tell you these are what the facts are. And now it's up to you to take some work or to take some steps to make that happen. So don't take it lightly. That's where you're going to get the change. I've said it the last time, and I'll say it again, and I'll be saying it till I deplete us or leave. The point is that don't just rely on organizations to make things happen. You must rely on yourselves. Pull together people who are interested in what you're doing. If you need some guidance on that, talk to us. Talk to me, talk to Allan, talk to Barry Friedman standing in the back. We have a team of players that will help you in moving in, well, what's the first step? What's the second step? What's the third step? Who do we have to talk to? What other kind of resources do we need? And so on. We'll help you with that. We have experience in it, but we can't do it. It's just impossible. We don't have enough people to do that. But if you pull together a team, we'll be happy to give you advice and counsel the best way we can. So that's important that you know that. We have adopted a nonpartisan and unbiased approach. We are not a political organization. Actually, when we became a 501c3 organization, there was a purpose behind that, not only to give you a tax benefit if you donated, but the purpose behind being a 501c3 organization, we cannot be political. You won't see us bringing in politicians, recommending or endorsing that. It's not going to happen. We can't do it, and it's not what we want to do anyway. We also want to motivate businesses out there and individuals to invest and engage Estero. That's why I'm addressing you on this issue right now. We're not involved with businesses right now, but we should be. We should consider them as citizens of the community and help them wherever they possibly can, wherever we can possibly do that. We want to ensure a strong return on investment for people that join us. People join us and donate money to us, in fact, are doing it because they're looking for something in return. What can you do to help me get where I want to go, what I want to do? And we'll do the best we can to make that happen. And that's all part of this hosting networks and informational systems to foster connections with a variety of different people, and to bring in the experts, the people that know what's going on, so you can listen to it, you can question them, and you can give your demands to them. That wasn't a joke. Those people were really taking notes on everything you were doing. We will follow up with some information in writing on what took place. This is being recorded, and it will be on our website so many more people can see it. But if you're interested, take some action. That would be very, very helpful. So on that, we appreciate you coming here. We will continue to do the best we can to make ourselves more effective and efficient at what we do, but we really need your help in terms of funding us and getting involved, getting engaged. Simply saying things here is not going to work. Get engaged. Thanks very much. Appreciate it.